Well, after reviewing one boring Kingdom Hearts game, it's time to venture forth to a little bit of fresh air. So today in the Kingdom Hearts Marathon, we're going to be looking at the PlayStation portable game Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which is actually the prequel of the whole series at the time. However, instead of looking at the PlayStation portable version, we're going to be looking at the HD re-release on the PlayStation 3 and 4. Like the last game, I only played this game for just a few hours before putting it down due to burnout and loss of interest, and instead I'm just watching the whole story through other YouTube channels. Now, unlike the last game, Birth by Sleep actually got a full release of the whole game, and not just relegated to cutscenes alone. And because of this HD re-release, that I'm able to get a second chance at it. So let's not waste any time, and let's get on with the review of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Just like past KH games, by meeting certain conditions, you'll often get secret movies that serve as teasers for the next game, such as this one after defeating Kingdom Hearts 2, showing 3 knights with keyblades against another knight and an elderly man who was wearing Ansem's threads for some reason, and started battling in some valley with many keyblades. Honestly, I think it's an awesome looking fight scene, with keyblades clashing and landscape shifting, though what I find perplexing is that among the 3 heroes, one of them was thought to be Roxas despite his merger with Sora. But as I was watching more trailers, kid versions of Sora and Riku are shown, indicating that Birth by Sleep is a prequel, taking place 10 years prior to the first game. As I've stated, I'm actually going to give Birth by Sleep a second chance now that it has an HD re-release, but this isn't the only game that I'm reviewing, as we will also look at the lost chapter of Birth by Sleep called A Fragmentary Passage, which is found on the 2.8 compilation disc. A Fragmentary Passage is the lost chapter continuing where Birth by Sleep left off, while some other events of the previous games have already taken shape. But the gameplay itself is very much a demo of Kingdom Hearts 3 before the actual demo of Kingdom Hearts 3, with its foundation already in place, if that makes any sense. So let's not waste any time and let's get on with the story. As you start the game, and after playing through the tutorial, you get to choose one of 3 characters, knowing the story through each character's perspective. No matter who you choose, you'll start off in this academy called the Land of Departure, where the main protagonists are Terra, Ventus, and Aqua. Students that are learning the ways of the Keyblade, with Terra and Aqua slated for the Keyblade Mastery exam, spearheaded by their masters, Ericus, voiced by Mark Hamill, and Xehanort, voiced by Leonard Nimoy. Star Wars cross Star Trek, huh? Fancy that. As the exam rolls on without a clear victory, Terra unknowingly unleashes some darkness out of him, but as the exam ends, Aqua is then granted the title of Keyblade Master, but the celebration is short-lived as Ericus sent both Terra and Aqua to investigate and stop the uprising of this game's Heartless called the Unverse, with Terra believing that this opportunity being his second wind. Not long after, Ventus was greeted by some Dark Knight, telling him to pursue Terra and get the job done to prove his worth, even if it means disobeying Ericus' orders, forcing Aqua not only to keep an eye on Terra, but Ventus as well. Unlike the past games, the Disney worlds, though they are still retellings, have some relevance this time around, and they can be summed up as such. Terra finds himself interacting with the game's villains in search of Xehanort, who has disappeared some time past during the game. Ventus later appears to help the princesses out and make friends with many inhabitants due to him being such a loner, and Aqua very much is playing the role of a maintenance worker, trying to clean up any mess that was already caused by the other two. It wasn't until all three have finally met up in Radiant Garden where the story will take a nasty turn when Terra slowly becomes more antagonistic. As all of this is going on, Xehanort's plan was to create a weapon of ultimate power, aptly named, well, Keyblade, but using this symbol which is pronounced as Key. Oh, we'll see that symbol again in the future. Its purpose was to unlock the power of Kingdom Hearts, as well as starting a second Keyblade War for that very purpose, as the first Keyblade War, which happened centuries prior to this game, nearly caused the entire universe to implode. The Keyblade can only be made through the combined powers of two hearts, one with light and one with dark. It turns out that prior to the story, while training in combat, Xehanort sent Ventus into a coma by extracting a piece of darkness out of Ventus' heart and create Vanitas. Ventus' darkness, taking physical form, and is the one who goaded Ventus to pursue Terra in the first place. But that's not the only plan Xehanort has in mind, as he then realizes that due to his age, he knew it won't be long before his time is up, and is rushing to find a new body to possess to extend his life. Which leads us to Terra, manipulated by Xehanort to give in to his darkness upon the two teachers seeing Terra's darkness slowly emerging during the examination, leading to Ericus to attempt to eliminate Ventus, realizing that he's the catalyst to the Keyblade, only for Terra to intervene and save him, resulting in a duel between student and teacher, with Terra winning the fight, but it was a hollow victory as Xehanort knew that Terra was best suited to taking out Ericus for the sake of completing the Keyblade. Once the trio meet up at the Keyblade graveyard and talk it out, both Xehanort and Vanitas would start battling the three knights, which resulted in the very same cutscene from Kingdom Hearts 2, with the three knights getting their butts kicked. Aqua and Ventus are very much down for the count by Vanitas, while Terra releases his inner darkness and attempts to take down Xehanort, only for Xehanort to release his own heart before Terra's weapon can even touch him, which made Terra now a possessed villain. However, fragments of Terra's mind are still present in Terra's armor, becoming sentient with his actual conscience, but to no avail as the possessed Terra has both powers of his and Xehanort's. As Vanitas is about to take the heart out of Aqua, Ventus saves Aqua by forcing to merge back with Vanitas, only for Ventus to then be possessed by Vanitas, now holding the Keyblade, but with some assistance from Mickey, it's 2 against 1 against Vanitas, with the heroes winning the match. Meanwhile, Ventus fights Vanitas within his own heart in the duel, with Ventus not only slaying his darkness, but also preventing the Keyblade from ever forming, though the end result is Ventus losing consciousness following his victory. To ensure that Ventus wouldn't be used as a catalyst for a weapon ever again, Aqua takes Ventus to the ruins of the Land of Departure, and with the power of Ericus' Keyblade, she uses her magic to create Castle Oblivion, where he will remain hidden inside the Chamber of Waking until his heart returns, which ends up in the possession of a 3-year-old Sora. Aqua confronts the possessed Terra for one last duel, and as Terra was slowly regaining his mind, Xehanort's conscience uses his Keyblade to pull him down into the void, with Aqua jumping in to save him. With no time to spare, Aqua sacrifices herself by using her power to force Terra back to the surface, only for Terra to be discovered by Ansem the Wise, who then takes him in as an apprentice, without knowing that Xehanort himself is still in possession of Terra, but was left with amnesia, remembering only Xehanort's name. In the Lost Chapter, A Fragmentary Passage, we pick up where Birth by Sleep left off, as Aqua remained stuck in the realm of darkness for 10 years, and Kingdom Hearts 1 was already kicking into high gear. The more she wanders in the realm of darkness, her mind would slowly go to some level of insanity, but thanks to some unexpected assistance from Mickey, she was able to maintain her composure, and it turns out that the sealing of Kingdom Hearts at the end of the first game was not just Sora, Riku, and Mickey alone. After the worlds are restored in Kingdom Hearts 1, we then see Aqua in the dark coastline, meeting up with a hooded figure, ending Birth by Sleep and A Fragmentary Passage. Oh man, that was so much to talk about, and to be honest, the whole story of Birth by Sleep and the Lost Chapter combined is very tragic, even more so than the last game I reviewed. I mean, Terra's story is basically Star Wars, with Terra as Anakin Skywalker and Xehanort as Palpatine, and given that the game was made in 2010, if you think about it, even the death of Ericus in the game, as the character is played by Mark Hamill, kinda foreshadows Disney buying out Lucasfilm just 2 years after this game, as well as key scenes in the later Star Wars movies. Going off topic a little bit, heck, even that one scene from Toy Story 2 with both Utility Belt Buzz Lightyear and Emperor Zorg foreshadows Disney's buyout, and that movie was 2 decades ago. Man, how time flies. As for Ventus, his only purpose in life is making friends and living life to the fullest, but was cut short as he's comatose in the end. And I consider Aqua similar to that of Shu from Fist of the North Star, such a good anime I suggest you watch it, as Aqua is the most benevolent of the three, which is why most of her story is about self-sacrifice for the sake of those she cares about, but try as she might, she's stuck in darkness, which I think might be the reason she turned to the dark side in Kingdom Hearts 3, which we'll get to soon. It's also weird that the reason for Sora, Riku, and Kairi being able to wield Keyblades later in their teens was all just for meeting Terra and Aqua is nothing more than just plain happenstance. The story also did a decent job of showing Axel and Sykes' earlier years prior to 358 Days, which would explain how Axel's friendship with Roxas developed, and that's due to Axel having traces of his former self reminding him of befriending Ventus, which Roxas himself takes resemblance to. Speaking of which, part of the reason how Roxas resembles Ventus, despite being Sora's nobody, was due to his heart being a part of a young Sora, which might be the reason why Sora was able to have a Keyblade appearing before him in Kingdom Hearts 1, sort of like the two boys made a pact together, and why Sora is considered the key to saving the universe. As for the Realm of Darkness itself, given that Aqua barely aged for a decade that she's been there, the realm itself kinda feels like the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, only evil. I do have some nitpick with Ericus and the three knights. Their basic personalities aside, somehow I find it puzzling how they fail to see that Xehanort is the villain all this time. I mean, the man has very intimidating bloodshot yellow eyes that should definitely be the telltale sign of evil, and they don't realize this until midway through the climax. They're just as dumb as the 1987 Ninja Turtles when they can't tell that's Bebop disguised as an elderly woman, or in one episode, they can't tell that's Shredder's gauntlet in a commercial, let alone recognize his voice or eyes. Even Frylock from Aqua Teen Hunger Force is smart enough to tell who MCP Pants is just by his signature shower cap, underwear, yellow eyes, and his pseudo-hood voice, regardless of whatever form he's reincarnated into or what alias he takes.
Yup, Villainy 101. That's our scumbag!
While the story is okay and does give a glimpse of what many of the game's characters came to be in the previous games I reviewed, it is more convoluted as you play the game, and should this be your first KH game you ever played, be prepared to have your mind turned to pudding if you don't take major events into account attentively. Before I get to the mechanics of Birth by Sleep, I'll talk about Fragmentary Passage's gameplay first, as it doesn't take too long to defeat. Anybody who played this chapter would immediately think of it as a demo of Kingdom Hearts 3 with Birth by Sleep slapped onto it, and I agree. It looks very fantastic, not only on graphical fidelity, but seeing combat in 60 frames per second is just visually stunning. Aqua really controls well with such graceful movements, and destroying Heartless in this chapter felt so good. And it's this kind of flow that was made apparent again when I tried the actual demo of Kingdom Hearts 3, but I'll stop right there before I go too far, and just go on to Birth by Sleep's gameplay right now. We already know the monotony of 358 Days, but thankfully Birth by Sleep gives us the kind of action we deserve. But since this is a prequel of the past 4 games, you can expect some changes in the game mechanics, and this game has it in bucket loads. All 3 wield Keyblades and are skilled fighters, but each have different attributes. Terra is the power type, which is not surprising as his Keyblades are the size of 2-handed swords, yet he carries it in one hand like it was a lightweight. As a common trope with power-type characters, he doesn't have that much magic to perform, and does come off as a slow character, and sadly some of his hard-hitting moves aren't available until much later in his story route. Ventus uses his Keyblade in a reverse style, almost like a ninja, and how appropriate as he is the speed-type character, and while the damage output of his command techniques are not as high as Terra's, they can actually rack up good combo strings. Aqua is the magic type, and while decent in speed, her magic powers are very devastating, to which, if you set her magic commands carefully and position yourself in the right spot, any group of unversed can be destroyed simultaneously and easily, as if her powers act like screen nukes. As far as regular Keyblade fights go, it's no different from any other KH game, but just like the aforementioned attributes, that also reflects their attack speeds as well. Just like 358 Days, you don't have an MP meter. Instead, each command that you equip have gauges of their own, and upon execution, that move will enter a cooldown phase, forcing yourself to either dodge attacks or defend yourself with your Keyblade for now, and then you can use that move again. The more you play the game, more slots will be open to you to add more moves to your leisure, giving you so many possibilities to make each character very versatile in combat. But it doesn't end there, as you also have this command gauge on the top of your attack list, which fills up by connecting attack or magic spells, and upon a full gauge, you can enter what's called command mode. Depending on the character you play as, and the deck commands that you customize, these are very powerful melee attacks that you can make your enemies submit, and while they don't give you any invincibility, the attack ranges of these techniques are enough to where some unversed won't even touch you. Just like past games, you have AI partners but are very scarce and happen only on a few sequences, so to compensate for it, introduced to this game is delinking. Upon meeting certain characters in the story, be it the Three Musketeers or Stitch for examples, your customized attack set will temporarily be replaced with a preset attack command set exclusive to that chosen D-Link, and just like the drive forms in KH2, when you defeat the Unversed or any opponents during that state, that D-Link will also level up and each will come with automatic abilities the more levels gain, like faster attack speeds or HP regeneration. The only caveats I've seen with the D-Links are that the auto abilities don't last that long, and you can't activate them immediately during a boss match, which I assume they're doing this just to make the fights fair, I guess. The third gameplay element is shot locking. By having a full focus gauge and using the shoulder buttons, an aiming reticle will appear to lock onto any enemy and even bosses. Unlike command mode, you're actually invincible, and the more you charge your attacks, you can rack up heavy damage at fast speeds, as if enemies are getting decked in the face by Superman. Finally, you have the option to meld magic attacks. This happens when you level up certain magic spells. You can combine 2 magic spell levels and a synthesis item, not only to create a new spell entirely, but just like D-Links, the item you add will also come with an auto ability. So should you find yourself melding the strongest spells, the game would then come off as disgustingly easy, almost as broken as the 6th generation of a certain N Company game, which I'll not name due to that company's insane overprotection of copyright just by mere mention alone. Anyway, if those weren't enough, you also have this minigame called Command Board, which you can enter upon completing a world and can be accessed anytime upon touching a save point. Certain abilities can only be purchased upon landing on a specific space and buying them with money obtained from defeated Unversed. Definitely Kingdom Hearts Monopoly if you ask me. The minigame itself won't hesitate to throw a curveball at you with the boss character trying to take the property buyouts to use against you, but if you understand how it works, it's all a matter of luck at this point, and should you come out victorious, the spells you have on your inventory will also level up without the need of actual combat to do so, making the game even more broken than it has to be. But even with some mechanics that are broken, there are still some enemies that are designed to irritate you, and many times you'll find yourself dodging attacks until that right moment to counter. All the worlds in the game, while the vast majority are new, save for Radiant Garden, Olympus, and Neverland, thankfully are not that huge, definitely not barren, thank goodness, and they don't overstay their welcome for too long, making the pacing of the game more tolerable. Visually speaking, the graphics are quite impressive on the PlayStation Portable for the time, and it got better with the HD re-release on the PS3 and 4. And sound presentation is no different from past games, as the soundtrack is what you'd expect. Though the voices from the non-Disney characters kinda fall flat, with Mark Hamill as Ericus and Leonard Nimoy as Xehanort being the only good ones, and Anson the Wise, while good, it's sadly not Christopher Lee. Nevertheless, Birth by Sleep is really a breath of fresh air, with many mechanics that you can perform, the many things you can exploit, the unique skills exclusive to each character, wonderful soundtrack, and nice graphics to boot. This game warrants a 9. The story may be very convoluted, but what matters is the pacing, and it does it so well. People will compare the fun factor of Kingdom Hearts 2 with Birth by Sleep, stating that the latter is better. But for me personally, they are 2 completely different titles, yes, but when it comes to overall fun factor, both of them are on even ground, much like when I think of both Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Mania being equal as well.
Sadly, the good times can't last forever, because up next in the marathon, we're gonna go back to the dual screen with Kingdom Hearts coded. Anyway, I hope you liked this video, and if you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to like and follow me on social media as well. We're already halfway through the marathon, folks, so hopefully you can hang on just a little bit more. Until then, this has been Musashi X, and I bid you all farewell. Take care, stay tuned, and pray that I don't lose my mind yet. Ay.